What
Yep.
we need to talk about is this NBA officiating that's been going on the last couple of weeks in the season because Lord knows, I don't know if they like conveniently, they got together in a meeting and said, yo, we ain't gonna tolerate no bullshit no more, or we gonna be hypersensitive because I'm seeing T's thrown around like L's. Like you get an L, you get an L. Bro, it's crazy. Everybody getting teed up. And if you even look at a ref, I feel like they're just itching to blow that whistle and hit you with that T, man. I'll smack you with that bullshit. I've seen some of these calls lately. I'm like, bro, you kidding me? They're grown men. They're allowed to have emotion. I don't know. You might have a different opinion. I know we talked about it earlier, but what's your take on this shit?
I mean, the Montrezl Harrell technical foul the other day, that was ridiculous. I mean, he made the shot. He
That was
said and
last
one.
night.
I mean, time flies, bro. It's just the way that I saw that play, I didn't think it was worthy of a technical. Yeah, he did kind of yell and one a little bit loud, but to get a technical out of that, I didn't see that it was
What
completely
NBA
unnecessary.
player doesn't scream that? You know how many times a ref got to hear and
Yeah,
one?
exactly. Now, with that said, though, that doesn't mean that every one of these technical fouls that these referees have levied are
Not
bad.
all of them, no. Some of them
So
are questionable.
so obviously there's been a lot of hubbub about Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell getting ejected from technical fouls that they received during the game. I'll start with Devin Booker first. So everybody was up in arms about Devin Booker getting ejected from the game after he got 2 back-to-back technical fouls. And a lot of people thought that he got ejected because he passed the ball to the ref towards the ground, kind of like a hard bounce pass to the ref. And I watched the whole play. I watched before the foul happened, after the foul happened, and what Devin Booker was saying to the refs before he ended up getting tossed. Look, Devin Booker was chirping with the refs. There's no doubt about it. I believe the report that I read said that the first one that he got, meaning technical fouls that he got, was that he was consistently complaining to the refs. So that was the first one. The second,
River, everyone does.
I think it got to the point where it was like, look, dude, you got to stop. And it's like, it got to the point where it's like, hey, bro, you get the T because of this. And then the second one, this is basically what I heard from the refs report or the refs account, was that Devin Booker got the second technical because of profane language being directed towards an official. So that was the reason for the second foul. Look, you can make a case that it's BS. You got to let it go, and it is what it is. But if you're constantly chirping with the refs, you're going to put yourself in a position to get a technical foul. Look at Draymond Green a couple weeks ago. Kept chirping with the refs, cost his team a win because of getting technical fouls. So, Devin Booker, was he as vocal as what Draymond Green was a couple weeks ago against the Hornets? No. But at the same time, we don't know what he actually said to the refs. And that's the thing that we have to take into account. Obviously, we can read body language with what Devin Booker was probably inferring to the refs. But we don't know what he was actually saying. So only the refs and him and everybody on both teams know what Devin Booker said. So with Devin Booker, could he have handled it a little bit better? Yeah. Was it worthy of him getting tossed out of the game? Probably not, but he didn't help himself. And Monty Williams, his own coach, didn't necessarily back him up 100%. He's saying, look, we got to be better at handling our emotions when things don't necessarily go our way. Now, granted, they ended up winning that game against the Lakers the other night. So in the end, it didn't really matter. But that's going to be something that, look, Monty Williams may have to talk to Devin Booker, especially when it comes to these playoff games that they're going to be playing in a couple months from now. It's like, we can't afford you to get these technical fouls and you be out of the game, because we're going to need you down the stretch when it starts really getting important during these playoff games. Now, with Donovan Mitchell pretty much brought that upon himself. He shoots a contested three-point shot, thought he got fouled, doesn't get the call, and then for the next 10 to 15 seconds, he's walking down the court chirping with the refs. And it got to the point where I believe the 76ers got fouled, and everybody's headed to the free throw line, and yet Donovan Mitchell is still chirping. He's still going off, and then he gets tossed. With that one, I don't think Donovan Mitchell helped himself whatsoever. And for anybody that was saying this is like, why did Donovan Mitchell get tossed? Look, kind of similar to what I brought up with Devin Booker. You can keep chirping with the refs. But to a certain point, these refs are human too, and they can only take so much. And he got tossed out of the game. And look, at that point in the game, there was about 35 seconds left in the game. Philly was up 5, and they were going to the free throw line. I believe Tobias Harris shot 2 free throws that probably put him up 7. And pretty much the game is out of reach at that point. It's a 3-possession game with about 35 seconds left. Is it impossible to come back from that? No. Is it unlikely? Yeah. So I don't think Donovan Mitchell helped himself there. And look, you have to judge these individual cases on their own merit. First, are there some calls that are absolutely horrendous? Yes. That Montrezl Harrell one the other day, yesterday, was bad. But these other two with Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell, I think a lot of people are making these calls worse than they are actually are. That's kind of how I see it. But obviously, you may have a different opinion than mine. So I definitely want to hear your take on what you think these refs and these calls have been lately.
So my thing is with techs, and obviously in any sport, there is a situational awareness that athletes need to have. There is times where you can complain. There are times where you can get upset. You can get riled up. You might even throw in a couple curses here and there. But it's like we're talking late in the game in both situations, in reference to the Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker situation. We're talking about
Devin Booker one was in the third quarter.
Oh, I thought it was in the fourth.
That was in the third.
So he got ejected early.
That was the third.
Damn. So, I mean, that kind of changes my point. Nevertheless, situational awareness is something that athletes need to be obviously cognizant of. In reference to Devin, where he was kind of like chirping and doing his thing, and then the whole theory of him, throwing the ball towards the referee, and then the profound language, you just can't go doing that. I think the whole profound language is bullshit because you and I both know we've heard LeBron James in multiple occasions when mic'd up or with the crowd being out of the stadium in the last couple of years, obviously with COVID last year in Orlando. And this year, for the early part of the year, you can really hear what players were saying on the court. Excuse me. And even when players were mic'd up, actually, you could hear Braun bitching and complaining and cursing, like, come on, Ernie, what the fuck, man? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Every player says these things. Every player gets caught up in the moment. They're emotional. And similar to what you said, refs have emotions too. They're going to be like, yo, he's been in my ear for 2 quarters. I've given him even the half to calm down. He's still talking to me.
Yeah.
The tech is almost like a timeout to stop a run from a team to continue to score. It's to snap a player into reality and
it's
say,
a check.
Stop.
It's a check.
It's a mental check. Cut that shit out, or I'm gonna give you another one. So the Devin Booker one, I really don't think it was grounds for an ejection because obviously all players get agitated and curse. The profound, like, shut up, man. Just it's a man's sport. Shut up. Let him complain. Devin doesn't normally do that. That's out of his character. And I don't agree with what you said with Draymond. I feel like Draymond has kind of carried this reputation with him throughout his entire career. So when Draymond just begins to get uppity, I feel like a ref is itching to tee him up because of you let Draymond start going off, it's going to turn into an entire game of him bitching and moaning and whining. So versus like a Devin Booker, a Donovan Mitchell, it's like these guys never really complain out of pocket, or this is way out of their character. Like, what the hell? Maybe I got the wrong call. Not that they can change it, but it's to show, I think that was bullshit, Johnny. Like, obviously, I don't know the refs' actual names in these cases, but I'm just saying in general. The Donovan Mitchell one, now that you mention it, re-looking at the highlight while you were talking about it, it is definitely more understandable because Donovan literally did not stop talking for a span of like a good couple of minutes. Obviously, timeouts and fouls and the shot.
He walked down the ref.
Yeah. When you are on a ref's side and he's telling you shut up, like we're at the tail end of a game. We're talking this ref is probably exhausted from running up and down that damn court and dealing with players bullshit the entire game. And then you go sit here. He already made the call. It's 35 seconds left afterwards. Bro, shut up. It's over already. Like, fucking play the game. I get it. I understand what that ref's coming from. And like, again, they have emotions. They get annoyed too. Yeah. So I don't know, man. The Montrezl Harrell one was absolutely out of pocket. I thought that was stupid. It was just unnecessary. I don't know what it is. I feel like a comparison. I know it's not as drastic, but it's like that NFL season where we had replacement refs and there were bad calls all over the place. I'm not even just talking about technicals. I don't know if it was last night or the night before. Golden State played Portland, and Damian Lillard kind of slid under Draymond Green, and it looked like Dame's feet were still kind of sliding underneath him because he got there a little late, and the
Mm-hmm.
refs called a charge. And it, when you slowed it down, because obviously, you have a challenge and you have time to, go over these things,
Mm-hmm.
it really did look like Draymond got there before the slide. Or it looked like, Dame was still shifting.
Mm-hmm.
So, I feel like these calls have been bad all season. I feel like there have been a lot of early whistles for nonsense. And I just feel like these refs are kind of going through, I don't know if it's an ego check or a power trip, because we all know that free throws like that late in a game, or free throws like that in general, games can be decided by a point. So,
Yeah.
these things put players in a difficult position to kind of play with their fullest potential, because when you got a T, you're scared to do anything. You're scared to get hype after a foul. You're scared to, have a good dunk or get celebrated or animated when your teammate scores. So that might be the diffuser to a team going on a run. I'm thinking very small and minuscule picture here, but you get a T, that changes the aspect of a lot of things for some teams.
I think you really hit the point home with the whole situational awareness aspect, because a lot of times the way that I've always kind of seen it in basketball is that with technical fouls, I always kind of say that like this is almost like a mental lapse, where it's a mental mistake that doesn't necessarily get the criticism like it does in football. Like in the NFL, you get like an unnecessary roughness penalty, or you get like an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. It has far more drastic implications.
15 yards,
It's much more
ejection.
severe in the NFL. I believe in the NBA, it's not necessarily treated the same way, because I think the nuance of it is that it can be rectified if you go on some run. But looking back at it, if you get a technical foul, you could give the other team a lot of momentum, and a lot of it could be just from the root cause of getting a technical foul or an ejection. So, like when it comes to Devin Booker the other day, look, you're going up against LeBron James and the Lakers. It doesn't help your team if you constantly keep chirping with the refs and then you get tossed because of it. It's going to hurt your team. Now, in that instance, it didn't hurt them to the extent that it could have, because the Suns ended up winning that game. But with Donovan Mitchell, look, could they have come back against the 76ers? It was probably going to be too tall of a task, but you never know. So the one thing that I really think that these players, they kind of forget in the moment is that situational awareness. It's like, look, we're going to need you, especially in these critical moments at the end of the game. And if you're going to just complain about the refs, about not making the calls that you want them to make, you're going to put yourself in a position where you could get a technical foul, you get ejected from the game, and not only does it look bad on you, it's going to hurt your team in the process. So I wish there was a little bit more, I won't say criticism, but it's like I wish there were more more severe consequences for getting those fouls. It's like, hey, dude, it's like you can't be doing that. It's like you're putting the team in a hole here. And specifically what I mentioned with Draymond a couple of weeks ago, somebody's got to get in his ear and say, dude, you got to cut that shit out. Because at some point, it's going to be too much. It's going to be too much to handle. I know Draymond's kind of gotten that reputation for being kind of a hothead, especially when he doesn't get calls his way. But it cost them a finals. He freaking hit LeBron James in the nuts in a pivotal game 5. Ends up getting, he didn't get kicked out of the game in game 5. He got suspended in game 6. I mean, that's what I mean. Especially when it comes to these big games, and you're going to do something like that where you put your team in a bind, man, it's a poor reflection on you. And that's just my way of looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad way to look at it. Obviously, I mean, I don't agree with you in the sense of there should be more consequences, because you get 2 of those, you're out.
No. I'm saying that the team should look at it more severely. I'm saying like internally, like his teammates are like, hey, dude, you can't be doing that. Like you're putting the team in a hole because of your shenanigans. That's what I mean by like consequences. I mean from his teammates. That's what I meant.
Gotcha. No, that makes more sense. I was really confused. I was like, I mean, like you get two, you're pretty much done, and when you get a T, you're pretty much ticked off as it is. So it's a matter of time for certain players to get another one.